Now time for a big moment, our keynote address. Most of you know Dr. Susan Hockfield, the President Emerita of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT. Dr. Hockfield?
I'm really delighted to have a chance to talk to all of you today at this State of Possible Mass Bio Conference. I have to say there's no better time than right now to talk about what's possible. And while there's much to worry about, and I'll come back to that soon enough, I have to tell you that I'm optimistic about the role of our region in inventing the future. So today I want to talk about our regional advantage and call out two really significant opportunities that we have to take that regional advantage to a higher level. Regional advantage is a term that was popularized by Anna Saxenian in her book called Regional Advantage. And Saxenian's thesis is that the crosstalk, the collaboration, the easy commerce among a region's participants, and by the region's participants, I'm talking about industry, academy, government, that convergence of ideas provides a key element for outside success for all. And that complementarity among the key elements, the key participants in our region, offer us two really extraordinary opportunities to dramatically amplify our already robust regional advantage. Saxenian compared the West Coast, Stanford and Silicon Valley, to the greater Boston region, and at the time she wrote her book, Boston region was lagging. I think we've come forward in a tremendous way, particularly in the biopharma, biotech industries. So the first opportunity that I see for us is to really double down on emerging technologies. And I want to talk about where we are in a new technology revolution. We are on the cusp of a transformational set of technologies that I feel quite profoundly will shape the future. And that set of technologies uses biology to solve some of the most pressing technology challenges. We call this the convergence of biology with engineering, and I've described that technology revolution in my book, The Age of Living Machines. It includes lots of examples of the convergence of biology with engineering, and I'm just going to give one example today. This convergence of biology with engineering is truly our region's sweet spot. It's one of the region's greatest current and potentially even greater strengths. The second opportunity I want to call out is that we can and we should be using our resources more productively. And when you do an analysis of who's included in inventing this biotech, biopharma, bioindustry future, you find that we've largely left out of the world of these industries lots of potential contributors. And we have an enormous opportunity to expand our reach to include more supremely talented people. Now, I have to remind you all that neither of these two important opportunities is uniquely ours, but I really believe that we have a unique advantage in both of them. Now, unfortunately, I'm certain we would all agree that the complex of current challenges makes the future look pretty bleak. But here in Greater Boston and throughout the Commonwealth, we have the necessary components to lead, both by example and by products, as well as by people, to lead to a better future. Now, when we think about the future we're living in today, it's hard to contest that it's the digital technologies that most profoundly changed our lives in the 20th century. If we think about where those technologies came from, they emerged from a convergence of physics with engineering. Let's call that Convergence 1.0. It began with the description of a parts list of physics, starting around 1900 with the discovery of the electron by J.J. Thomson, and subsequently the other subatomic particles. Engineers love a parts list, and they picked up those physics parts and used them to build new kinds of devices. The electronics industry was born, and the electronics industry gave rise to its successors, the computer and information industries. And this theme became the 20th century's transformational technologies. The 21st century's transformational technologies will add to all of that, add to the convergence of physics with engineering, a new parts list from biology. Now, biology didn't have a parts list before about the middle of the 20th century, but from around 1950 and through the second half of the 20th century, biologists discovered and described the parts list of biology: DNA, RNA, proteins. And as I said before, engineers love parts lists. Gave rise to a new convergence, which is now accelerating, the convergence of biology with engineering, Convergence 2.0, and it promises a set of new technologies as impactful and as transformational as the 20th century's digital technologies. Convergence 2.0 calls on nature's genius, biological parts, to solve many of our most pressing challenges. There are a number of examples, as I said in the book, including using the water channel that each of our cells use to conduct water into and out of a cell, to use that water channel for commercial water purification, or to use viruses to build batteries with a lower environmental impact to help with our tremendous need to have better storage for alternative energy, or using advanced IT technologies to increase crop productivity. These will be the 21st century's technologies, and they will change our lives as profoundly as the convergence of physics with engineering's technology changed our lives in the 20th century. So for one example, I want to talk about the possibilities for one set of technologies in the Convergence 2.0 to provide better diagnostics. I'm sure it's as painful for you as it is for me to watch us stumble through the diagnostic challenges prevented by the current COVID pandemic. We desperately need better diagnostics now, and we need to have them at the ready for other pandemics. A related problem is we also need to address our healthcare cost problem. In the United States, we spend upward of 18% of GDP on healthcare, and while we do have some amazing new ways to diagnose and treat disease, we're diagnosing disease too late, and we're treating it too expensively. So what we need are technologies that will provide early detection, which will give us the opportunity for early intervention, and give us the best possible chance to achieve cures. New diagnostic technologies are also essential for containing disease spread. So what do we need in diagnostics? We need diagnostics that are, of course, accurate, that are sensitive, can detect disease at its outset, that are rapid. You don't have to wait 2 weeks for a result. They're inexpensive, and that we can produce and use in huge number. So let me describe one convergence technology, and I'm going to start with this use of this technology in cancer. So we've gotten very much better at treating cancer, but we still diagnose way too late. There's an enormous expense in treating cancer late in the game, and we can achieve better cures if we can diagnose it early. Sangeeta Bhatia, an MD, PhD, a scientist, engineer, physician at MIT's Koch Institute for Integrative Cancer Research, has developed a method that she calls synthetic biomarkers. Using this method, she can increase the sensitivity and specificity of detection. And she uses, again, nature's genius. She looks for disease-specific activity, not just cellular markers, and she uses one of nature's great amplifications, proteins called enzymes. Using the technology, she can detect cancer masses in animals and now in human trials that are about 1/10 smaller than detected by state-of-the-art imaging techniques. Let me describe how it works. You can see in the slide a dark turquoise center, which represents a nanoparticle. Sangeeta is a nanotechnologist. But what she's done is she's decorated that nanoparticle with short stretches of protein that are attached at the very end to a small marker protein in the light blue. She's designed those attachments to be the site for cancer enzymes. Cancer moves around the body and moves through a tissue using enzymes that are specific or relatively specific for the cancer. If it's suspected that someone has cancer, that person would be injected with these nanoparticles. And if there isn't any cancer, there's no enzyme that would clip those little blue signaling particles from the center nanoparticle. But if there is cancer, those little blue circles get clipped. They're small enough to migrate into the bloodstream, and then they're small enough for the kidney to sequester them into the urine, providing a urine-based diagnostic test. Be accurate, sensitive, and inexpensive. And people say, well, is this such a thing possible? And I would only offer the example of the over-the-counter pregnancy test, which is inexpensive, accurate, and rapid. Sangeeta has developed this technology to another level, from a urine-based to a possible lung-based. And here she's envisioning, and actually working on, a breathalyzer type test, where instead of injecting the synthetic biomarkers, the person who might have a disease inhales these nanoparticles with their attached diagnostic signal. In this case, the diagnostic signal is a volatile organic compound. So if you have a disease, the enzymes that are specific for that disease will clip off that volatile nanoparticle, which can then be exhaled. She's developing it to discriminate different kinds of pneumonia, to measure inflammation, but one can imagine extending this kind of technology to other infectious agents. Having exhaled these organic volatile molecules offers the possibility of point-of-care detection. And it's possible to use many different signals to get a very, very finely tuned diagnostic for the disease, specific disease. So the next thing I want to talk about is our talent gap. About a year and a half ago, we gathered about 30 stakeholders in the biotech, biopharma community to begin to address the problem of including more of our talent into this important regional powerhouse. Right now, we know that we're preventing the translation of important discoveries for the public benefit. And this could have significant impact on the Greater Boston Life Science Center. You know, in 2018, only about 2.5% of VC dollars went to women-founded companies, and it's about 1% went to Black-founded companies. So we brought together these stakeholders, and we attacked the problem in a number of ways. First, we looked at the data. Once we had the data, we developed approaches, and then with those approaches, we've begun to implement them. So let's look at some of the data. We did an analysis of MIT faculty founding of companies, and we did it department by department. Here I'm showing only one example of the data collected. This reflects the biology department at MIT. So while women represent 25% of the biology department faculty, of the 56 companies that have been founded by biology faculty, only 2 were founded by women. Doing this analysis across all of MIT, the analysis demonstrates that there are 40 missing companies, companies that were not started by women that could have been. And that means we're missing new drugs, we're missing new therapies, we're missing new devices. We're missing opportunities for new vaccines, more shots on goal for the region and for the challenges of the 21st century. So an economic analysis of GDP growth in the United States over the recent past demonstrates that a significant amount of the productivity gains have come from drawing women and Black men into high-skilled occupations. Only another illustration that we can get more from our region if we include more of our great discoverers, scientists, engineers in the process. Once we realized that there was a problem, we realized we needed to find ways to solve it. And one way is to help women get ready for these kinds of roles, provide the network that they're going to need to move ideas and discoveries from the lab to the marketplace. We've recently announced a boot camp for women and people who support women to help women understand what the path is to bring a great discovery from the lab into the marketplace. Another component, of course, is once you're ready to launch a company, you've got to get the funding to do so. As I mentioned earlier, only 2.5% of VC dollars in 2018 went to women-founded companies. We need to change that game and bring women and minorities into the action. A critical component of the Future Founders Initiative at this point is a commitment by our VC partners. It is a pledge by venture capital companies to increase the number of women on their boards to give them experience in this domain. Their pledge is to increase the number of women on their boards to 25% within 2 years. That's a really important pledge. It's already been signed on to by 7 local venture capital companies. And that commitment will be tracked by MassBio and the New England Venture Capital Association to be sure that we actually meet the targets that we've set. So, as I said at the outset, our regional advantage is extraordinary, but we have the opportunity to increase that regional advantage. The convergence of biology with engineering, the technologies emerging by using biological parts to solve technology's greatest challenges, this is our region's sweet spot. And we can amplify it even more. And the second great important opportunity for us is to draw on more of our talented people, bringing them into our innovation engine. And as I said at the outset, neither of these two important opportunities is uniquely ours, but we have unique advantages. And I look forward to seeing how the Greater Boston and Commonwealth life sciences community will draw on these advantages to bring to us, to the world, the products that we need to invent a better future.
Thank you for that meaningful and interesting keynote address, Dr. Hochfield. Now, before we wrap things up, I want to look ahead. 1 month from now, we take a deeper dive on the subject we focused on with our conference-wide panel today. It's our Digital Health Impact Summit, September 30th. We also encourage and invite you to read our full report on digital health. You can see that report and register for the conference at massbio.org. Now, final thoughts from Bob Coughlin, President and CEO of MassBio. Bob?
Thanks, Mike. I want to take a moment to offer a heartfelt thank you. A thank you to Morgan Stanley, our platinum sponsor, and thank you to all of our sponsors. The State of Possible would not have been possible without your generous support of MassBio over these 2 days and all year long. Most of all, I want to thank all of you, the members of MassBio, the employees of our member companies, for attending this virtual annual meeting. We sincerely hope that you enjoyed it, despite the challenges of meeting virtually. You know, it's your work, ladies and gentlemen, now more than ever, during this pandemic, that truly takes us to what is possible for the lives of people around the globe. We'll see you next year. Thank you again.